Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I want to quickly tell you what you're about to watch here. Adam and I had a discussion about movie theaters, how much we miss going to the theater, what movie theaters meant to us growing up. So we talk about some childhood stories. We talk about things that maybe some of you could relate to. We're hoping that you can. The other reason I'm talking right now is to tell you that there was another discussion that happened and I kept it all in one video. That's why this thing's so long. But that other discussion is all about movies that we anticipate in 2021, ones that we want to see in theaters. But I say all this because if that's something you're interested in, got a little timestamp thing going on down in the description of this video and probably the comments. So you can click that timestamp and jump straight to the 2021 movies discussion. What a treat! I don't even know that this introduction was necessary. Anyway, thanks for watching. We're going to get right to it. Let's go. Hey everyone. Adam and Andrew here with It Takes Two Takes. Doing a little something different this week. We wanted to talk about something near and dear to our hearts, but before we do that, just want to mention, we appreciate everyone that's been subscribing to this channel. We basically just talk about movies, television, topics that are interesting to us in that realm. So if that is interesting to you, please check out our many videos that we've done really over this last, I don't know, how long has it been, Adam? 8 or 9 months? So thank you. I don't want to give a big speech about subscribing, but we do appreciate it. So normally we would be doing some sort of a review this week, and we decided to switch it up. I feel like heading into the year 2021, after what was, as they say, 2020, that's what the kids are saying that year. It's slang. We were dealt a pretty raw deal in life. Many people were. And I feel kind of weird sitting in this chair and talking to you about the privilege of going to a movie theater. Let's just we lost that, and there are many things that people lost. But being that it is a channel that we appreciate and celebrate film and the things that give us joy, I feel like it's appropriate to go into 2021 and talk about the movie going experience and maybe what we'll call it the threat, or just how it may be different heading into this year. Can we get back what we had? We don't know. But with that said, I kind of want to talk about the love of going to the theater. And Adam, I know for a fact, you are probably one of the more regular theater goers of anybody that I've ever personally known. I probably would be up there with you, certainly not matching you if it weren't for children that seem to get in the way of those things. In fact, the last time I was at a theater was with you. So,
that's not the last time I've been at the theater, but yeah.
Okay, well, we didn't need to get that open and honest. I feel betrayed, but that's fine. So I feel like you are the perfect person to kind of go through sort of the love of cinema. And then what I want to do is talk about maybe movies that we feel are the most anticipated for each of us that would be prime for the theater experience, and maybe why. So I'm going to start with Adam. You are a subscriber to theater. Literally, you are. I mean, there's a pass to go and pay a membership and to get those, the 20% off concessions. So you're only paying $15 for a Diet Coke. You're actually doing that, and I live vicariously through you. You've got to be hurting through all of this. But what does 2021 tell you? What do you miss about the theater? What's different now that we're getting everything on streaming?
Really, the stuff that's been going to streaming aren't even the things I would have probably gone to the movie theater to see, to be honest with you. Most of the things I would have gone to the movie theater to see have been pushed off. The last movie I went into the movie theater to see was Tenet. It was nice. They had it set up for social distancing, and so when you bought your ticket, it automatically created a barrier around you from a social distancing standpoint. So that was nice. And a lot of people were afraid to go to the theater, so really there was like less than 10 people in the theater when I went and saw Tenet. But it was nice to be able to sit there and enjoy that movie on the big screen. But before that, almost everything else that was supposed to come out last summer got pushed off, and we're still waiting for it. With the exception of Wonder Woman, every big tent movie for the most part has been pushed off. I'm absolutely looking forward to those movie theater movies to kind of get back to the movie theater. I do miss it. I was going to the movie theater about once a month at least. So I
feel like at least is a fair assessment. I don't know. From what I heard, it seemed like way more than that. I mean, not way more, but what?
It depends on the season. It depends on the season. Summertime, yes. The big tentpole movies come out from April on pretty much anymore. So yes, I was probably going multiple times a month through the summer. I still enjoy that experience, and I think in my life, because of the experiences I've had going to the movie theater, I'll be back there. As soon as the movies warrant me going back there, I will be back there. Absolutely.
I do think that it's been a a topic of debate. You see it all over the news. Is there a place for theaters? Is it a dying industry and that sort of thing? And I don't know how. We've talked about this a little bit, obviously off camera, but I think my thoughts have always been there's something about the art in knowing that it was designed for the theater experience. I do think that we look at the past year, I do think it's sort of, I don't know, funneled out some of the things that maybe weren't doing fantastic in theaters aside from your anomalies. Your big blockbusters do well in theaters. Certain maybe comedies that get people, completely rowdy and you strike lightning with that. Sure. But I do think there's some positives in the streaming industry, particularly with indie films and the smaller niche films, right? I mean, the ones that you do these limited releases, you can't even see it if you don't live in New York or LA or whatever it may be. And I feel like people were just always hesitant. There was this stigma of, oh, I can't do a premiere. I can't have it in this particular theater. And I can appreciate that. But at the same time, I feel like I don't know, there's an encouragement, there's an enablement in these films if you just leaned into the streaming platform. But to your point, I do feel like there are certain films when we look at 2021 and really the past year that really would have done very well in theater. And I think there's still a place for that. Make it an event. Make it something important.
Well,
you may have to step that game up a bit.
I don't even think you have to always make it an event, right? If we go back a year, the year before the pandemic, Crazy Rich Asians did really well in the theater. And that's not something you would think as a theater movie most of the time because it was a rom-com, but it was it did great in the theater. And even when you go back even further, Greatest Showman and stuff like that, there are things that absolutely will draw people to the theater that would have probably done well on streaming. I really hope it doesn't ever go to the point that the only movies that are in the theater are your Marvel and your Star Wars and your giant tentpole movies. Because not everybody is going to necessarily want to see those. The older people who like to go to the movie theater during the day, the people who love a good Quentin Tarantino movie. There are enough other types of movies that warrant going to the movie theater. And I think streaming is great. I think there's a lot of great things to it. I think the stories, to a certain extent, need to be better. Some of the stories, even if they've got big actors, have still been kind of a direct-to-video type of story. Last year when we reviewed Project Power, that was a great example. Jamie Foxx.
The old guard.
Old guard. There was plenty of those out there. That just they were fine movies, but I don't think they would have drawn anyone to the theater because the writing just wasn't there. It's a catch-22, right? The theaters don't want to put things back in the theater until they think they can get the audience. The audience isn't going to go back until there's something in the theater worth watching.
Well, it's not so much just the blockbusters. I just think of it more of as people. It was only a matter of time, had pandemic or not. At some point, it was going to be marketed differently. It was going to be rolled out differently. People were going to be looking at films differently because they were going to be looking at the medium in which they wanted to release them. That was inevitable. We were already kind of there prior to 2020, but we weren't quite there. I feel like if nothing else, this escalated that. And some out of necessity, but many of which I feel like belonged, to your point, on a streaming service for whether it was, subjectively quality, or whether it was really just the amount of money and promotion that was put behind it.
I don't think a lot of these movies, I mean, if they were good movies and they could make it in the theater, they would have been the theater movies without the pandemic, of course. Because when you look at movies that go to the theater, some of these movies make, $500 million or $1 billion in the theater before they ever get to streaming and stuff like that. They're not making that on those streaming services for a lot of those movies because the amount of new people that have to sign up for a streaming service for one movie to make that money, they're not making that for those movies. So I think there's still a place for movie theaters. The other thing is when you look at it historically, the other thing that's a big factor with streaming versus movie theaters now is people have got a lot bigger TVs than they used to have. I remember when I was younger, a 32-inch TV seemed like a big TV. That was the family TV. It was a 32-inch, tube TV. possibly console in the nice like wood paneled frame and everything like that. So going to the movie theater and seeing on the big screen, there was obviously a big quality difference. And now with the high def TVs, and they're bigger in size, and it's not uncommon for most households to have 60 plus inch TVs. Yeah, I mean it's really compelling for people to say, well, I can pause the movie if I watch it at home.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same dilemma that sports is dealing with right now. People could go and see something live, but then they're overpaying for concessions, they're overpaying for parking, they're dealing with like, the hassle of like bumping into people and trying to get through lines and what have you. And then they could just watch the game at home and not have to deal with any of that. It's not quite the same, but it's a similar vein. So you mentioned the things that you appreciate about the theater. You're looking forward to the concessions. You're looking forward to just the general experience and the vibe of sitting in those seats and having that on that big screen. I would throw in there that one thing you did mention that at least I appreciate. It's the crowd experience. And that is a frightening thought right now. We've developed a fear of that. At least I have. And I do miss that. I miss hearing, dozens, if not hundreds of people reacting to something in real time. And what we're left with is, I don't know, our channel where we react to trailers and people watch one of us do it. I mean, that's what we have at this point. You don't have that same experience. Everyone's trying to mimic it. Can we watch something and share, the experience together through Amazon Prime? And everyone's trying to do some sort of let's sit in together virtually and watch a movie. But to sit in a room with that many people and to feel the energy of a room, you can't replicate that. So that's always going to be available, I feel like. I don't think you can ever remove that from demand, in my opinion.
When the first Avengers came out, AMC Theater was doing a marathon of all the movies leading up to Avengers, with Avengers playing at midnight. And that was before the nice, relaxing, reclining seats. It was a very long day sitting in that seat, watching every one of the Marvel MCU movies leading up to Avengers and even Avengers. But there was that crowd experience of I'm with all these people who love these movies enough to spend their entire, almost half of their day or a whole day sitting in a theater with the same people watching these movies that we probably have all already seen, most of them other than the new one. So yeah, there's a camaraderie. And when you go back to your midnight showings and people dress up, whether it be the Harry Potter movies or the Star Wars movies,
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Right, when you get the people showing up for those midnight showings and costume and stuff, it was just, there was such that crowd nerd fandom experience that was so nice to be a part of. I can't wait to kind of get back to that. The interesting thing is, the difference in generations. Like you and me grew up with the idea of going to the movies and seeing a movie on the big screen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of younger people now that are growing up who may have gone occasionally into the movie theater, but most of everything they watch was at home. So they don't necessarily have that same movie theater experience that we've had. And
of course,
I think that plays a big factor in how things continue to go for movies. Older people love to go to the movies during the day because they're retired and they've grown up also going to the movie theater. And they
appreciate a damn good matinee price.
Of course, senior citizen matinee price, absolutely. Is it going to be that young crowd jumping back to go to the movie theater, or is it mainly going to be the people like us who grew up with it who just miss that experience?
I think it's also on the generations that are moving forward with, we'll call it post-pandemic, for lack of a better term. I tried as best I could to make the theater experience as as much of a special occasion as it could be with my kids. We went and we saw Toy Story 4. We went and we saw Frozen 2. It was something that you almost would look forward to. You almost charted it like it was a vacation. That's the way it was with me growing up. My parents didn't have a lot of money. It was all about, this is a big event. So all I did was look forward to those things. And I try to do the same for my kids, I guess is my point. And I would hope that anyone else out there that appreciates cinema, appreciates going to the theater, would hand that down to their kids, their nieces, their nephews, their friends' children, whatever it is, to be that sort of person that is going to usher them into the theater going experience.
Do you have any kind of favorite like movie theater experiences that really stand out to you that make you kind of miss the movie theater because of those experiences?
Mm. Well, I'll start with one thing. Uh, if I have any ticket stubs from movies, it was probably every date I went on in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. So as a kid, for a family that like, the idea of going to Disney World would be like flying to the fucking moon. You know what I mean? Like we just didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have everything was something that you had to appreciate. Going to a theater was just an event. I'll never forget even being 6 years old and my mom announcing that we were going to go see Home Alone in front of one of my best friends at the time, who also wanted to see Home Alone. And I wish at that time someone had filmed it because it would have been a viral video. Like I collapsed like I had just gotten an Xbox One X or a PS5. Like I just couldn't believe that it was going to happen. And I went to that theater and I just absorbed every moment. So it ties in with, the snacks and the food and just the lights everywhere and the crowd just reacting to everything. That will never leave me. Even if the crowds change, even if the concessions continue to rise in prices, that's something to me that will always be, I will always value it. I will never take it for granted. And I certainly feel like I should have taken more advantage of it, knowing that I can't see any meaningful film right now in a theater. I'm saying that loosely, but here we are. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand with theaters. And meanwhile, Adam's going to see Empire Strikes Back in theaters. I mean, can't even imagine that.
Yeah, we're dating me a little bit here. So you were 6 seeing Home Alone. I was 4 sitting on my mom's lap seeing Empire Strikes Back for the first time. I don't remember that nearly as much as I'd love to, but it's the story my mom loves to tell a lot. The next one I remember like as being a really big event was my mom kept me and my brother out of school to go see the first showing on the first day of Return of the Jedi. We were the first ones in line, even. And so my mom is absolutely responsible for all this Star Wars that's behind me. She is absolutely responsible for all of that. Because she was a fan. She worked in the toy department of a department store, and I got all the cool Star Wars toys. And again, I saw Empire in the theater. I saw Return of the Jedi first showing, first day. But it wasn't just those. I mean, that's kind of like solidified the movie theater experience for me. I remember when Wayne's World came out, me and my buddy saw it 3 times within a 24-hour period because we got done watching it. Then we talked to one of our other friends. We're like, wait, you haven't seen it? Well, we need to go see it. And then we got done seeing it. And then it's like, wait, you haven't seen it? Well, then we need to go see it. And we saw it like 3 times in 24 hours. There were all the midnight showings I went to. There was one movie I went to when I was, young. I went and see Tales of the Crypt Demon Knight when I was
Good Lord.
18 or 19 years old, somewhere around there. I'm guessing on age right now, based on where I worked at the time. And it was the same night I went to see that. It was the same night Higher Learning came out. And anyone who remembers when that came out, there were actually fights at the movie theater and everything. And the theater we went to, me and 2 others, went into a theater that, how do I put this? We were the only white people in that movie theater that night. And that whole like cinema complex type of deal. We walked in the door. All 3 of us had long hair, leather jackets. We were hoods back then because it was in style. And, we walk in. And as soon as we walk in, we hadn't even gotten our tickets yet. And a few young guys walked up with smiles on their face asking us if we were there to see Higher Learning. And we're like, no, we're here to see Demon Knight. And that was even before we knew that racial fights were breaking out for that movie and everything at the time. There were so many experiences that stick in my head of going to the movie theater. And, when we talk about the prequels, episode 3, sit in the movie theater because it was before you could reserve seats. Sit in the movie theater 2 hours before the showing started just to be able to get good seats. But being around the Star Wars fans, I stood 3.5 hours in line for episode 1 tickets, around a bunch of other Star Wars fans. It's just There are so many great experiences I've had that are related to that movie theater experience that for me, I will continue to go to the movie theater, and I think even as we talk about the movies that are coming up, because I know there's some movies coming up this year that are probably going to be, fun to see in the movie theater. I'm jazzed about going. Pandemic or not, I might be in the movie theater at the end of March, and it's for me, I don't think I'll stop going to movie theaters unless the movie theaters disappear. I've had too many experiences, and those were just a few I named. There are so many movie experiences I've got that for me, not being a sports fan, those are my sports fans type of memories. Look, I was in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with a girl who was, I've got a little bit of a baby face to a certain extent, but there was a girl next to me who I knew was too young for me, flirting with me for half of that movie while dressed as a pirate. I mean, those aren't experiences you get watching a movie streaming at home. I mean, it's just...
Am I editing this video? I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that in or not. I don't know where we're going with this.
But
it sounds like the experience.
It's one of those experiences you don't get streaming something that, I still stuck in my head. But no, it's just there is the experience of sitting next to people. And, I took, I was such a midnight showing type of person that a friend of mine's daughter, when she was, a teenager, and the second of the Twilight movies came out, and she really wanted to go to the midnight showing just so she could show up to school the next day and rub it in her friend's face. Not necessarily the best reason.
That.
Right.
Yeah.
But I had not seen the first Twilight movie, so I had to watch the first Twilight movie. And after I did, I'm like, oh my God, I agreed to take her to the theater to see this. And I'm one of like 4 guys in the movie theater watching the second Twilight film, having to shush the woman next to me because she was talking during the opening credits, because I didn't want it to ruin my friend's daughter's experience watching this movie in the theater on a midnight showing, because it was her first midnight showing. So there are all those experiences that I feel like the younger generation could miss and not experience if movie theaters went away. And I absolutely want to get movie theaters back open again and get these movies back in the theater to drag younger people to the theater or whatever, to have these same type of memories that, I grew up having. And it's absolutely something I'm looking forward to again. So now 2021, we're looking for movies to be coming out again, hopefully, if the vaccine and everything goes well. What are some of the movies you're looking forward to seeing in the theater again?
Are we just going to rattle out the titles? Because I could give you my top 3. Or are we taking turns on this one?
Well, no, you can do your top 3, but I'd also like to hear why those movies are ones you want to go to the theater to see.
I'm prepared for all of this. Adam, we have over 100 subscribers. I'm a professional, my man. So here we go. First of all, I'm going to go probably in order of release date. Let's just do that. Number 1, and this may surprise you because I feel like I'm skipping way ahead in the year, because we're talking July. Top Gun Maverick. That is number 1. To me, that is... We talk about nostalgia. We talk about the movie-going experience. I didn't get to see Top Gun in theaters. I saw Top Gun on VHS the first time ever. So I feel like, honestly, a lot of any Tom Cruise action films, even today, modern ones, are really spectacles to begin with. But regardless... that is about the sounds. That is about the feel of, these fighter jets on screen, just screaming through the air and doing their thing. I need to see that in a theater. And I can appreciate the fact that they've delayed it over a year at this point for that very reason. So that would be first, again, chronologically, if we're talking about what's available or what's scheduled for the year 2021. Number 2 would probably be Dune. I feel like visually that is going to be a monstrous film. I love Denis Villeneuve. I've said this before. I actually did a reaction video on the trailer for this film. I'm not a giant Dune fan. I know nothing about Dune as a book. I didn't even really watch the original film aside from clips and pieces of it over time on cable television and YouTube. So I just love Denis Villeneuve. I love Prisoners. I love Arrival. I love Sicario. Anything. I love Blade Runner. Like I love anything that he touches. And then lastly, number 3 absolutely has to be No Time to Die, simply because it is. I mean, what else is there to say? We're talking James Bond. It's Daniel Craig's presumably last film, but a Bond film absolutely must be in a theater. The sounds, the visuals, the energy, it has to be in a theater. Those 3 to me, those are the ones that would top my list.
I will agree with one of them as far as what's on my list.
One. Wow.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I would have expected 2 or more.
Don't get me wrong. I'll probably end up seeing, me being a movie theater person, I'll probably end up seeing all of them in the theater. But
well, of course.
I'll be honest. End of March, I might be seeing Godzilla vs. Kong in the theater.
I feel you on that one. I don't know what. Yeah,
seeing those two characters as big as they are on that big ass screen,
You're
just
right.
fighting each other. I feel like that right there. Even if the storyline is not as good as we'd like it to be, just them two fighting each other on the screen just feels like an absolute movie theater experience to go see. The roar, the clashing, the sound, everything about that just makes me feel like that. I know it's coming out on HBO Max the same day, but I'm thinking my first showing might be on that, is in the theater. To hell with the pandemic. Since the theater is doing, a good job of social distance, I will go to the theater, I will watch it on the big screen and enjoy seeing those two just mammoth titans just going at it, The trailers got me
That's a very good one.
Pumped and jazzed for that. I'm absolutely, sign me up, I'm on board.
I'm a huge Godzilla fan, so it killed me to leave it out of my top 3 list. But go on. I don't want to interject.
The other one that we had in common, because I had 2 on the top of my head that were absolutely for reasons, was Top Gun Maverick. And not so much for the nostalgia or anything along those lines. That movie, based on all the stuff that came out around the same time as the trailer, was shot with practical effects, with cameras mounting 6 cameras in the cockpit. So the expressions on the actors' faces when they're hitting those G-forces are real. They want to do as much practical effects as they can, and just everything I saw with that just screamed, I want to see that on the big screen. It's not about the CG, because there's going to hopefully be very little CGI, because it sounded like they tried to do everything as practical as they can. I absolutely want to just experience that movie, and so for me, that's the reason I want to see that on the big screen. I mean, don't get me wrong, those other movies you named are going to be fun to see on the big screen, but not so much because they are. We'll have to see about the Dune one. I've got a big place in my heart for the old Dune movie. We'll see how this one definitely stacks up, but I'm absolutely. It's more because I do think that probably is a movie theater movie, but it doesn't have me as pumped as seeing Godzilla, the 2 titans clashing, and then also that fighter jet experience on the big screen, and the noise and the surround sound and everything in the movie theater. Those definitely epitomize for me that movie theater experience of the visuals and the sound and everything, that just, you're going to feel those movies, I feel like. And I definitely want to see those in the theater.
I totally get what you're saying. And, look, Godzilla versus Kong, it killed me to leave it out. I mean, I certainly could. There were no rules here, Adam. I could have said top 4. If I had an honorable mention list, Black Widow would definitely be one of them. I would say The Kingsman, which is still due in August.
Yep.
I would throw that out there as an honorable mention. It's a bit of a spectacle film.
I need another trailer before I throw Ghostbusters Afterlife on my list, because they hyped up all the original Ghostbusters coming back, and then the first trailer they put out had none of them, and it felt like Stranger Things, only Ghostbusters edition. So I need a better trailer on that one.
I put that towards the bottom of the honorable mention, but I agree. I understand what you're saying.
I think there's still, I could be wrong on this, but there's still other movies I think they're supposed to be possibly out this year, like the next Venom movie and next Spider-Man movie and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how
Spider-Man 3 is supposed to be in November, but who knows anymore what any of that means.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how things go because, the shooting schedule's getting thrown off and everything like that. Same with the next Mission Impossible movie. Who knows when all
Mission
these
Impossible
movies are coming
7.
out.
Yeah. It's
so-
like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't really matter. Like, this is what we're dealing with. Release dates don't really matter, but when we get into fall winter, who knows at this point?
Right. I've already got my Funko Pops order for Godzilla. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm on Team Godzilla, in case we're asking anywhere. I'm on Team Godzilla.
I don't even get me started on it. We can make a whole nother video about this. I think logically Godzilla has to win. What are you doing to me? Last thing, Jackass 4. We talk about theater experiences and the energy of a room. There is nothing like seeing a Jackass movie on the first weekend of it opening and feeling the energy of a room just losing their shit over what's happening on screen. There was something about it. Again, guilty pleasure. Not saying you have to see that in a theater, but if you want the energy of a room, unless you've got, I don't know, for whatever reason, 40 people in your house at any given moment you want to watch a film on a whim, that's an entertaining experience. So those would be the other things I just throw out there.
We've got some regular commenters on our channel, and I'm actually interested to see what kind of movies our regular commenters are interested in seeing in the theater. Not just movies they're looking forward to, but ones they're looking forward to that might actually get them back in the theater. Are there any that we named, or are there any that we didn't name?
Right.
And if you've got any great experiences that you want to kind of talk about as far as when you went to the movie theater, I'd love to read about those too. Let us know what your thought is on all this. Are you anxious to go back to the theater, or are you one of those people that says, just put everything on streaming and I'll be fine? I think it's a fun topic and discussion, a little bit different than what we normally do. But yeah, let us know what you think. And until the next video, this is Adam and Andrew with It Takes Two Takes.
Hey everyone, Andrew with It Takes Two Takes. We're playing some royalty-free music, so don't even bother Shazamming that one. We got videos over here I think you're gonna enjoy, and there's a button over here I'm gonna enjoy. Let's make this all work together, right? Please subscribe, check out what else we have going on. Thanks for watching.